What's up everyone? How are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto gets female Kyuubi pregnant? If you enjoy this video then please like, share and do comment, and also check out our description box for exclusive 18 plus Naruto story. So let's start the story.
For most of his life, Uzumaki Naruto had survived by pretending pain was just another form of noise. Laughter could drown it out. Training could bury it. If he kept moving fast enough, maybe the weight in his chest wouldn't have time to catch up. It never worked. Even now, at 17, even now as a fully registered shinobi of Konohagakure, the village still watched him like a wound that refused to close. Conversations died when he passed. Windows shut a little too quickly. Some people still looked at him the way one looked at a storm cloud. Something that hadn't done anything yet but eventually would. Naruto noticed everything. He just chose to pretend he didn't. Once, years ago, he had been small enough to believe that if he smiled hard enough, the world would eventually smile back. That version of him didn't exist anymore. He trained before sunrise. Not because anyone told him to. Not because Kakashi or Jiraiya or even Tsunade demanded it. He trained because exhaustion was the only thing that silenced his thoughts. The training fields behind the Hokage residence were empty and cold. The grass still wet with morning dew. Naruto stood there, shirt darkened with sweat, breathing slowly as chakra faded from his limbs. His body had changed over the years. Not in the loud, showy way people expected from him, but in quiet, earned ways. Lean muscle instead of clumsy strength. Balance instead of wild flailing. His movements had become precise, controlled. Even his hair, once a mess of short, spiky defiance, had grown long. Too long, some said. He usually tied it back, but this morning it hung loose down his back, catching the light like a pale banner. He didn't notice the looks. He noticed the silence. That was new. Don't tell me you're done already. Naruto didn't jump anymore when Tsunade spoke behind him. He just sighed and turned. You're the one who said not to overtrain before breakfast. Tsunade studied him with that sharp, measuring gaze that had nothing to do with being Hokage and everything to do with being a medic. And you're the one who always ignores me. She tossed him a towel. He caught it automatically. Living with Tsunade was strange. A year ago, if someone had told him the fifth Hokage would drag him into her home and insist he eat 3 proper meals a day, he would have laughed until he passed out. She never called it adoption. She just said, "You're not sleeping alone in that apartment anymore." And somehow that was that. The village had whispered for weeks. Some had been angry, some confused, a few openly furious. Tsunade didn't care. Naruto had never known what it felt like to have someone who didn't hesitate to stand in front of him. Terrified him. She had thrown out his old clothes the first day. All of them, she had said, arms crossed. Every last one. Now he wore simple, clean shinobi gear. White shirt, dark pants, red bandana tied around his wrist. His forehead protector rarely stayed on his head unless he was on a mission. You're not a walking flag, Tsunade had told him. You're a person. He still didn't know how to respond to that. They ate breakfast together. That was another rule. Tsunade pretended not to notice how Naruto still ate like the food might vanish if he didn't move fast enough. You're going to choke one day, she muttered. Worth it, she snorted. Then her eyes narrowed slightly. You're going into town today. Naruto froze. Why does that sound like a threat? Because I'm making it one. She smirked. You're not allowed to live on training and ramen alone. Choji's family opened a new place. You're going. You're eating real food. I like ramen. You like malnutrition. That's rude. Finish your food. People noticed him more now. He couldn't tell if that made things better or worse. Kurenai smiled at him more often these days. Anko never bothered to hide her interest, much to everyone else's discomfort. Even some civilians looked at him with something closer to curiosity than fear. Felt wrong, like standing in sunlight and waiting for clouds. Naruto still wasn't looking for anyone. He didn't know how. He barely understood what it meant to belong to someone else when he was still learning how to belong anywhere at all. What he didn't know was that someone had been watching him for a long time. Not from rooftops, not from shadows, from somewhere much closer. That evening, as he walked alone through a quieter street on his way back from town, Naruto felt it again. That feeling, like the air itself was holding its breath. He stopped. The street was empty. Too empty. His hand drifted toward the kunai at his thigh. "Hello?" he called quietly. No answer. But the pressure didn't fade. It grew heavier, warmer, almost familiar. Naruto turned slowly, and for just a second, only a second, he felt something inside him shift. The seal on his stomach burned. Somewhere deep within, something ancient stirred. And from the far end of the street, where the lantern light didn't quite reach, a pair of eyes opened in the dark, watching, waiting, smiling. Inside Naruto's mind, the world behind Naruto's eyes was not made of stone and bars. It was made of water. An endless, dark surface stretched in every direction, reflecting a sky that did not exist. The air felt thick, like breathing inside a memory that didn't belong to him. And in the distance, something massive shifted. "Naruto." The voice did not echo. It sank. Ripples spread across the black water as the enormous presence stirred. Too vast. Burning eyes opened in the dark, ancient and patient. For a long time, the Kyuubi had simply watched. She had felt every heartbeat, every doubt. Every night he lay awake staring at the ceiling, pretending he wasn't afraid of tomorrow. He was different from the others. Not kinder, not weaker, just alone. "You don't even know how many times they've tried to shape you," the Kyuubi murmured, her voice like wind pushing against a sealed door. "How many hands are on your life, pulling you in directions you never chose?" Chains of light stretched across the water, not binding her body, but the space itself. Prison built from intention. She did not hate him for it. She hated the world for putting him there. You walk in sunlight, and they still expect you to burn. The Kyuubi's tails shifted slowly, deliberately. "One day, Naruto, you will need a truth that no one else is brave enough to give you." Her eyes narrowed. "And on that day, I will be there." Deep in Naruto's mind, something ancient and patient began to count time. Outside training grounds. "Naruto, stop spacing out." Pain exploded across the back of his head. Naruto yelped and nearly fell forward. Sorry, Tsunade-sama." Again. He snapped to attention immediately. They were deep in the training fields behind the Hokage residence, the ground around them already scarred and broken from hours of practice. Splintered wood and fractured stone littered the area. Tsunade stood with her sleeves rolled up, eyes sharp, posture unrelenting. "You're learning control, not just power," she said. "If your mind drifts, you die, or someone else does." She placed her hands together. Green chakra flared to life around her palms. But this time, it didn't feel gentle. It felt heavy, dense, compressed. "This is medical chakra," she said. Forced to do something it was never meant to do. She took one step forward and struck. The ground didn't just crack. It folded. A shockwave ripped outward, turning a thick stack of wooden plates into a cloud of splinters and dust. Naruto stared. That wasn't just strength. Tsunade glanced at him. No, that was precision. She turned back to him. "You heal by understanding how the body holds together. You destroy by understanding where it doesn't." She looked at him more seriously now. I've taught you how to save lives. Now I'm teaching you how to end fights before they become massacres. Naruto swallowed. Can I really use medic chakra like that? You already are, she said. She stepped behind him, adjusted his stance, and pressed 2 fingers lightly against his back. Feel the flow. Don't push. Condense. Naruto closed his eyes, focused. Something inside him responded. His chakra gathered, tighter than before, denser, sharper. He struck. The training post didn't explode, collapsed inward. Tsunade's eyes widened slightly. Then she smiled. You're learning too fast. She placed a hand on his shoulder. Naruto, when this training is finished, there are things you need to know. About yourself. About the village. About what you're carrying. Naruto looked up at her. Is something wrong? For a brief moment, Tsunade didn't answer. Then she said quietly, I'm not sure anymore. That night, Naruto couldn't sleep. The seal on his stomach felt warm. Not painful. Not calm. Aware. He sat up in bed, heart beating slowly. Why do I feel like something is waiting? In the darkness of his room, the shadows did not answer. But deep inside him, something did. And far away, in a place that wasn't a place at all, 2 enormous eyes slowly opened again. Inside Naruto's mind, the place inside Naruto had changed. The endless water was no longer still. Waves rolled across its black surface, disturbed by something moving beneath it. The Kyuubi stood at the center of it all. Her massive presence contained not by walls, but by rules, ancient, invisible laws carved into the seal itself. Her form today was not the towering beast of legends, but something more focused, more deliberate, more intentional. Still pretending you're strong, she murmured, her voice echoing across the dark. Still letting them decide what you are. The chains of light trembled faintly. She raised one clawed hand and pressed it against the air itself, where the seal's influence was strongest. I don't hate you, Naruto, she said quietly. I hate the cage they put you in. The world shuddered. A dull, distant heartbeat echoed through the void. Every day, they take a little more from you. Your choices, your future, even your pain belongs to them. Her eyes narrowed. But you are not their weapon. She pushed, not against the seal itself, against him. Outside training grounds, Naruto staggered. At first he thought he'd just stood up too fast. Then the world tilted. His skin burned like he'd been thrown into boiling water. His stomach twisted violently, and his vision blurred. Tsunade-sama, he tried to say. He never finished. His knees hit the ground. Then his hands. Then everything started to shake. Naruto! Tsunade was at his side instantly. His body convulsed, chakra surging wildly and then vanishing, then surging again like something was tearing at it from the inside. His breathing became ragged. Damn it! What is this? She snapped, already pressing glowing hands against his chest and stomach. The seal. She felt it fighting itself. No. No, no, no. This isn't an illness. Naruto's eyes rolled back for a second. Tsunade, he whispered weakly. It feels like something is pulling me apart. That was all she needed to hear. Get help, she shouted to the nearby shinobi. Now. Hospital, move. 2 ANBU appeared instantly, lifting Naruto carefully but quickly. His body was burning up. His chakra was unstable. And the seal was reacting. Inside Naruto's mind, the Kyuubi recoiled slightly. The backlash rippled through her prison like thunder. You're weaker than you should be, she muttered. They made sure of that. She did not want him to break. Not yet. But the seal had to be loosened. Even if it hurt, Endure it, Naruto, she said quietly, almost gently. If you don't, they will own you forever. Her eyes darkened. And I refuse to let that happen. Konoha Hospital. Tsunade burst through the doors, already barking orders. Clear a room. SEAL specialists. Medical team now. Naruto was drenched in sweat, skin hot to the touch, his breathing shallow. This wasn't poison. This wasn't disease. This was internal conflict. She could feel it. Standing over him, Tsunade clenched her fists. What are you trying to do to him? She whispered, staring at the seal. For the first time in years, she felt something push back. Somewhere else, in the shadows of the village, far from the hospital, someone felt it. A disturbance. A shift in chakra that should not exist. So it started, a voice said quietly. Inside Naruto, he was falling. Through water, through darkness, and far below, two enormous eyes were waiting for him. Konoha Hospital. The corridor outside the sealed room felt too small. Neji stood rigid near the wall, his Byakugan active without him even realizing it. Veins tense at his temples. He had seen chakra networks collapse before. He had seen poison. He had seen internal injuries. This was neither. His chakra is folding in on itself, Neji said quietly, disturbed. Like something is arguing with it. Sasuke leaned against the opposite wall. Fists clenched so tightly his nails bit into his palms. Naruto had always been the one who got back up. Always. Inside the room, Tsunade moved with ruthless precision, hands glowing as she tried to stabilize Naruto's condition. His skin was burning hot, breath shallow, body trembling like it was fighting something no one else could see. Don't you dare leave me, she growled, pressing her palm over the seal. Not after everything. The seal pulsed. Once, twice, then Naruto's back arched violently as a surge of chakra exploded outward, shattering a nearby instrument tray against the wall. Tsunade was thrown back a step. That wasn't his chakra, she whispered. His temperature spiked again. 123 is already impossible, she muttered. And he's still getting hotter. Her hands shook, not from fear, from recognition. This feels like internal pressure, like something is trying to force its way into control. She turned sharply and ran. Hospital hallway. Find Shizune. Tsunade barked at the first medic she saw. Now, SEAL specialists too. Anyone who's worked on Jinchuriki. But Hokage-sama, move. She was halfway down the corridor when the lights flickered, the air changed, and for a fraction of a second, the entire hospital felt like it was standing under a giant shadow. Then it happened. A pulse of crimson chakra erupted from Naruto's room like a shockwave. Windows shattered. Walls cracked. Patients screamed. Neji staggered backward, eyes wide. That chakra! Sasuke's Sharingan snapped active instantly. He could see it. A massive, twisted presence coiling inside Naruto like a second skeleton made of fire and hate. So that's what you've been carrying, Sasuke whispered. Inside Naruto's room, the seal was glowing. Not leaking. Not breaking. Changing. Naruto screamed. Not in pain. In confusion. In drowning. In being pulled somewhere he didn't understand. Tsunade slammed her hands down, pouring chakra into him to keep his body from tearing itself apart. Damn you, she snarled under her breath. What are you doing to him? Inside Naruto's mind, he was standing in water again. But this time, the water was boiling. The sky was red, and the chains were cracking. Naruto clutched his head, gasping. What is this place? The world trembled. Then, she stepped forward from the darkness. Not monstrous, Not gentle. Something far worse. Certain. You finally heard me, the Kyuubi said. Her eyes burned like twin suns. And now, Naruto, you're going to have to choose. Somewhere in Konoha, in a dark chamber beneath the Hokage monument, the village elders felt it at the same time. One of them opened his eyes slowly. The seal is no longer stable. Another's voice was cold. Then the boy is no longer just a weapon. Hospital. Naruto's scream echoed through the entire floor. And then, suddenly, he went silent. His eyes snapped open, and they were not completely blue anymore. Inside Naruto's room, the red light faded. For a few seconds, the world was nothing but smoke, broken equipment, and the sound of Naruto's own breathing. Then he realized he wasn't alone. Someone was standing at the foot of his bed. Naruto's heart slammed against his ribs. She looked a human, too human. Red hair like burning embers, eyes that seemed to glow even without light. Her presence pressed against the room like a storm cloud that had learned how to take shape. He tried to move. His body wouldn't listen. So this is what you look like from the outside, the figure said softly, tilting her head. Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Carried weight. Naruto swallowed. Who are you? The woman's eyes narrowed, and for just a moment, something ancient and vast looked out from behind them. You really don't remember, she said quietly. She took one step forward. The air itself seemed to recoil. Naruto's instincts screamed at him to run. Don't come closer, he said, his voice shaking. She stopped. For a long moment, she simply stared at him. Then she laughed. Not kindly, not cruelly, but like something that didn't quite understand people. 17 years, she said. 17 years inside you. And you still look at me like I'm a stranger. Naruto's mind raced. Red chakra, the seal, the presence he'd felt his whole life. His eyes widened. You're. Yes, she said simply. The one they told you to fear. His stomach dropped. The Kyuubi. The name felt heavy in the air. Naruto pushed himself back against the bed, heart pounding. This isn't possible. You're sealed inside me. She smiled faintly. Not as completely as they thought. The walls creaked. Somewhere outside, alarms were beginning to sound. Naruto's voice trembled. Did you do this? The hospital? The chakra search? I touched the door, she replied. That's all. He stared at her. People could have been hurt. Her expression didn't change. People have been hurting you since the day you were born. That hit harder than he expected. I didn't come to destroy anything, she continued. I came to see you, with my own eyes, not through your senses, not through your thoughts. She looked at him like one might look at something fragile and strange. You are much smaller than I imagined. Naruto clenched his fists. Then go back. For the first time, she hesitated. I can't, she said quietly. Not the same way. The seal on his stomach burned. Naruto gasped, clutching it. What did you do to me? He shouted. I changed how the cage fits, she replied. That's all. Her eyes darkened. But now others will notice. Outside the room, Anbu were already moving. Sasuke stood in the hallway, Sharingan spinning, staring at the door like he was looking at a battlefield. Niji's Byakugan was active. There's someone else in there, he said, voice tight. Not physically, but her chakra is everywhere. Tsunade arrived at a run. Move. They parted instantly. She placed her hand on the door and felt it. Something old. Something watching her back. Inside Naruto's room, Naruto looked at the woman in front of him. Are you going to kill me? The Kyuubi's eyes widened slightly. Then she frowned. No. She looked almost offended by the idea. If I wanted you dead, Naruto, she said quietly, you would have never lived long enough to ask that question. The walls began to hum. Footsteps were getting closer. They're coming, Naruto said. I know, she replied. Her gaze locked onto his. This is not over. Not anymore. The air around her began to distort. But now that you've seen me, her form began to blur, stretch, dissolve into red light. You will never be able to pretend I'm just a story again. The room exploded with chakra, and then she was gone. Naruto lay there, shaking. The door burst open. Tsunade rushed in. Naruto. He looked at her with wide, terrified eyes. She's real. And somewhere deep inside him, something smiled. Inside Naruto's room, the woman in front of him looked broken. Not physically, emotionally. Her shoulders were shaking. Her hands were clenched into fists. Her eyes, those burning red eyes, were wet with something that looked dangerously close to despair. Why are you pushing me away? She whispered. After all this time, Naruto froze. He didn't understand what he was looking at. A monster? Person? Something wearing a person's shape? I'm not. He started, then stopped. She looked like she was about to fall apart. Against every instinct screaming at him to run, Naruto took a careful step forward. Hey, calm down, he said quietly. You're scaring me. Her knees nearly buckled. For a second, it looked like she might collapse. Naruto reacted without thinking, reaching out and steadying her by the shoulders. She was cold and burning at the same time. I've been alone for so long, she said, her voice trembling. Inside you, watching, listening, feeling everything you feel, but never being able to speak, never being able to exist. Naruto swallowed. This wasn't how he'd imagined the Kyuubi. Not roaring, not raging, but desperate. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, she continued. I just wanted to be seen, even if only once. Naruto's chest felt tight. You're the Nine-Tails, he said quietly. You destroyed half the village. Her eyes flinched, and they sealed me into a child who had nothing to do with it. That hit harder than he expected. Naruto looked away. I don't know what you want from me. She looked at him then. Really looked. A place to exist, she said. That's all. He shook his head. I can't just let you out. If something happens, if you lose control, people will die. Her expression twisted. So you'll lock me back in. Naruto clenched his fists. I don't want to. But I don't get to decide this alone. She stared at him for a long moment. Then, she smiled. Not happily, not kindly, but like someone who had just accepted a different kind of plan. Then I will stay close, she said softly. Closer than you realize. The seal on Naruto's stomach throbbed. He gasped, stumbling back. What did you just do? Nothing permanent, she replied. Just adjusted the distance. The air began to distort around her again. They are coming, she said. The woman who protects you, the others who fear you. Her form started to break into red light. But remember this, Naruto. Her eyes locked onto his. You are not as alone as you think. And then, she was gone. Outside the room, Tsunade reached the door at a run. The ANBU were already there. Sasuke and Neji stood back, both pale, both tense. Open it, Tsunade ordered. They did. Inside, Naruto was sitting on the bed, shaking. The room was destroyed. The air still felt wrong. Tsunade rushed to him instantly. Naruto. He looked up at her, eyes wide and terrified. She can talk to me. Tsunade's blood ran cold. Who? Naruto swallowed. The Kyuubi. Somewhere deep inside the seal. In the darkness, something listened and waited. The room still smelled like burned chakra. Naruto stood in the middle of it, heart hammering so loudly he was sure the entire hospital could hear it. The bed was scorched. The walls were cracked. The air itself felt wrong. And standing a few steps away from him was the thing that had caused it. She looked human. That was the worst part. "So this is the outside," the Kyuubi said quietly, her eyes moving across the room with strange curiosity. "It's smaller than I imagined." Naruto swallowed. You can't stay here." She tilted her head. "Why?" "Because this is a hospital. Because people are already scared. Because Tsunade-sama is going to come back any second, and if she sees you, she will try to seal me deeper," the Kyuubi finished calmly. Naruto clenched his fists. "Yes." For a moment, she just watched him. Then she said softly, "You don't want that." That sentence hit far harder than it should have. "I don't want anyone else to get hurt," Naruto replied. "That includes you. And that includes everyone outside this room." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You still think this is about choosing sides?" The seal on Naruto's stomach pulsed. He winced. "What are you doing to me?" he demanded. "Nothing you weren't already doing to yourself," she replied. "Your body is the cage. Your chakra is the lock. I merely loosened a hinge." Before Naruto could answer, he heard it. Footsteps. Fast. Heavy. Angry. "She's coming," Naruto whispered. The Kyuubi looked at the door, then back at him. "Interesting. And no, don't do anything," Naruto said quickly. Just hide. Please." She studied his face. Then, slowly, her form began to blur, fold, compress. Like red mist being pulled back into a bottle. "Very well," she said. "But understand this, Naruto." Her voice echoed inside his head now. "I am not gone." The pressure vanished. The room felt normal. Too normal. Naruto barely had time to breathe before the door slammed open. "Naruto!" Tsunade stormed in, eyes sharp, chakra already glowing in her hands. She stopped short. The room was a mess. The bed was cracked. The walls were scorched. Naruto stood in the middle of it, pale and sweating. "Are you hurt?" she demanded. No, I'm okay," Naruto answered far too quickly. Her eyes narrowed. "You're shaking." I just had a bad dream." She didn't believe that for a second. She walked past him, scanning the room, her senses stretched to their limit. "There was something else here," she said slowly. Naruto's heart skipped. "I don't feel it now," she continued. "But I felt it in the hallway." She turned back to him. "Tell me the truth." Naruto opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The seal on his stomach throbbed again. "I don't know what's happening to me," he said finally. "But I'm not trying to hide anything." Tsunade stared at him for a long moment. Then she sighed. "Get some rest. You're not leaving this room today. And I'm putting ANBU outside." She paused at the door. "And Naruto?" He looked up. "Whatever is changing inside you," she said quietly, "we will deal with it together." Then she left. Silence. Naruto sat down on the bed, finally letting out the breath he'd been holding. That was too close. Inside him, something listened, and something smiled. "You are a terrible liar." The Kyuubi's voice echoed in his mind. Naruto stiffened. "You said you were gone." "I said I was not here," she corrected. "There is a difference." He clenched his fists. "What do you want from me?" Her voice was calm. "Freedom." The seal pulsed again. And Naruto realized, whatever had started was already too big to stop. Naruto pressed his back against the wall and slid down until he was sitting on the floor. Freedom, he repeated quietly. The word felt too big, too heavy. You talk like it's simple, he said. If you get free, people die. The Kyuubi did not answer immediately. When she did, her voice was closer. Not in the room, in his head. People have always died around you, Naruto. He flinched. You think that is your fault, she continued calmly. You think if you endure enough, if you obey enough, if you become useful enough, it will stop. The seal throbbed. You are wrong. Naruto gritted his teeth. Stop messing with my head. I am not messing with anything, she replied. I am pointing at the cracks. He hugged his knees to his chest. They're going to lock me up, aren't they? Silence. Then, they are already discussing it. His heart skipped. What? ANBU outside your door. Sensors on the roof. The Hokage worried. The elders afraid. Her voice was almost amused. Fear always makes people predictable. Naruto's breath became shallow. Tsunade-sama said she'd help me. She will try. That pause was deliberate. And the village does not belong to her alone. Outside the room, 2 ANBU stood guard. 3 more were hidden. Sasuke leaned against the far wall, arms crossed, Sharingan quietly active. Neji stood beside him, eyes pale, veins faintly visible. There's something wrong with his chakra, Neji said under his breath. It's not just unstable. It's layered. Sasuke's gaze stayed on the door. I know. Down the corridor, Tsunade was arguing in low, furious tones with 2 council representatives. You are not putting seals on him like he's an object, she snapped. He is a Jinchuriki, one of them replied coldly. And the seal has reacted. That makes him a risk. He is a patient, Tsunade growled. And a weapon, the other said. Whether you like it or not. Inside Naruto's head suddenly jerked up. They're talking about me like I'm not even here, he whispered. The Kyuubi did not deny it. This is why cages exist, she said softly. So the ones outside can feel safe. Naruto clenched his fists. I don't want to hurt anyone. I know. That answer was immediate. Too immediate. Then don't push me, he snapped. A low, almost thoughtful pause. I am not the one who started this. The seal burned. Naruto gasped and grabbed his stomach. What did you just do? Nothing, she said. This time it is not me. The air in the room felt tight, like pressure before a storm. Then, he felt it. Something else touching the seal from the outside. Interfering. Probing. Naruto's eyes widened. Someone's messing with it. Yes, the Kyuubi replied. And for the first time, her voice sounded serious. And they do not understand what they are touching. The lights went out. The hospital corridor plunged into darkness. Alarms started blaring. ANBU moved instantly. Sasuke's Sharingan snapped fully open. Neji's Byakugan flared. There's a chakra spike in Naruto's room, Neji said sharply. Inside, Naruto cried out as the seal flared with blinding heat. The world twisted. The room stretched, and he felt himself falling. Inside the mindscape, he hit water, hard. The sky was red. The chains were glowing. And standing in front of him, not behind bars, not far away, but close, was the Kyuubi. Her eyes were no longer calm. This, she said quietly, is what I was afraid of. Naruto struggled to his feet. What's happening? She looked past him, at something moving in the darkness beyond the chains. Someone is trying to open the door, she said, and they are doing it wrong. The water began to shake. The chains began to scream, and something else, Something that was not the Kyuubi stirred in the dark. They reached Tsunade's estate just before dawn. Naruto was breathing hard by the time the massive gates came into view. Not from the run, but from the strain. Every step felt like the seal was grinding against his insides. The Kyuubi walked beside him in silence, not touching him, not because she couldn't, because she was watching him. "This is where you live," she said, looking up at the towering structure. "The one who protects you." Naruto nodded. For now. He took the spare key Tsunade had given him and unlocked the door, slipping inside quickly and checking the hallway before letting it close behind them. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that only exists in places meant to be safe. The Kyuubi's gaze moved slowly across the interior. The wide halls, the polished floors, the faint traces of old chakra embedded in the walls. "A fortress pretending to be a home," she said. Naruto didn't answer. He was too busy listening for footsteps. "Come on," he said quietly. "We shouldn't stay here long." He led her through the halls, up the stairs, past rooms that were dark and empty. "You're hiding me in the lion's den," she observed. "I'm hiding you where people won't look first," Naruto replied. They stopped at his room. It was large, but cluttered. Scrolls were stacked everywhere. Training notes, seals, half-finished experiments. "So this is where you fight yourself every night," she said. Naruto frowned. "That's not." He stopped. "Never mind." She walked slowly along the shelves, reading the titles. "You prepare for everything," she said, "except the things that matter." He didn't like how accurate that sounded. "You can't stay looking like this," Naruto said finally. "If anyone sees you, if they sense your chakra, I can hide my presence," she replied. "Not perfectly, but enough." "That's not what I meant." He opened a drawer and pulled out a spare cloak, dark, plain, long enough to cover her entirely. "Wear this, at least until we figure something out." She looked at it, then at him. "You are afraid." "Yes," Naruto said immediately. "Of you. Of what happens if anyone finds out. Of what the elders will do. Of what you might do." That last part hung in the air. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, "Good. Fear means you are still thinking." She took the cloak. As she pulled it around herself, Naruto felt the seal shift again, like something adjusting its grip. He winced. "You're still doing something to it," he said. "I am still inside it," she replied. "Everything I do echoes." He sat down on the edge of his bed, suddenly exhausted. "This is insane," he muttered. "I should have told Tsunade-sama." "Yes," the Kyuubi agreed calmly. He looked up, startled. "Then why didn't you?" She met his eyes. "Because some part of you knows they would never let you choose." Silence. "You can't stay," Naruto said quietly. "I know," she replied. "But I will not disappear either." The seal pulsed, and far below, something answered. Naruto looked up sharply. "Did you feel that?" The Kyuubi's expression darkened. "Yes. Someone is still touching the door." Naruto took a slow breath and looked at her. "You can't go out looking like this." The Kyuubi blinked. "Like what?" Like yourself," he said, gesturing vaguely. "Your chakra stands out. Your presence stands out. Anyone with half-decent senses will feel you." He moved to his closet and pulled out a long, dark cloak with a hood. Plain. Unremarkable. The kind that disappeared in a crowd. "Wear this," he said, "and keep your chakra as low as you can." She studied the cloak, then him. "You are afraid," she said again. "Yes," Naruto replied honestly. "Of what happens if they find you, and of what happens if they don't." He hesitated, then added, "And of what happens to me either way." For a moment, she said nothing. Then she took the cloak and put it on. As the fabric settled around her, Naruto felt the seal shift again, like something tightening, then loosening, then tightening once more. He winced and grabbed his stomach. "You're still affecting it," he said. "I am still connected to it," she replied. "Even here." That didn't make him feel better. He sat on the edge of the bed and rubbed his face. "This is insane. I should be at the hospital. Tsunade-sama is going to notice I'm gone." "She already has," the Kyuubi said calmly. Naruto looked up sharply. "What?" "The moment you left," she said. "They will be searching." His chest tightened. "Then we shouldn't go anywhere." "But you said you wanted to move," she replied. "You said this house was not safe." Naruto clenched his fists. "Nowhere is safe." Silence stretched between them. Then the Kyuubi said something that made his blood run cold. "They are touching the seal again." Naruto froze. "What?" "Not here," she said. "Not physically. Somewhere else. With tools. With jutsu." The seal burned. Naruto gasped. "It feels like they're trying to pry it open." "Yes," she said. "And they do not understand what they are doing." The house suddenly felt very small. Very fragile. "If they mess it up," Naruto whispered. "What happens?" The Kyuubi's eyes darkened. "Then the door does not open," she said. "It breaks." Outside, far away, faint alarm sirens began to echo across the village. Naruto's eyes widened. "They've started." He looked at her. "We need to move." She tilted her head. "Now you understand." And deep inside him, the seal creaked. Naruto hesitated at the top of the stairs. "There's one more problem," he said quietly. "Tsunade-sama still doesn't know you exist." The Kyuubi looked at him. "She will find out eventually." "I know," Naruto replied. "But not yet. If she does now, she'll call the elders. And if they get involved, they won't listen to either of us." He took a breath. "So for now, you stay here, in my room. It's the only place in this house that doesn't get checked every day." She studied his face. "And you?" "I won't sleep there," he said. "Not until this is stable. I'll take the couch or the training room." For a moment, something sharp passed through her eyes. "You are afraid to be near me." "Yes," Naruto said honestly. "And I'm afraid of what happens if I'm not." She didn't answer that. "Just don't disappear," she said instead. "If I'm alone too long, the seal reacts." Naruto felt a chill. "Fine. I'll check on you every night." That seemed to satisfy her. He stopped and looked at her more carefully. "Before we go outside, you need to hide what you are." "I know," she said. Red chakra flickered faintly. Her ears vanished. Her tail dissolved into light. The pressure in the room shifted again. Naruto winced. "Every time you do that, the seal moves." "Yes," she replied, "because everything I do echoes through you." That did not make him feel better. He grabbed a plain cloak and handed it to her. "Wear this, and keep your chakra low. If anyone senses you, it's over." She put it on without comment. They moved quietly through the house. Naruto grabbed a pair of simple sandals from the rack near the door and handed them to her. "Try these. They won't stand out." She put them on, then looked around the silent estate. "You live in a fortress," she said. "It still doesn't feel safe," Naruto replied. He opened the door and checked both sides of the street before stepping out. Outside, the village was uneasy. There were more patrols than usual. More chakra signatures moving on rooftops. Naruto could feel it. "They're already searching," he muttered. "Yes," the Kyuubi replied calmly. "For you." That made his stomach tighten. He kept his head down and walked like everything was normal. "Where do you want to go?" he asked quietly. "Anywhere that is not here," she said. They walked in silence for a while. The seal on Naruto's stomach throbbed faintly with every few steps. "You're nervous," she observed. "You're not," Naruto asked. "No," she said. "I have waited too long to be afraid now." That answer unsettled him more than if she had said yes. They turned onto a quieter street. And then, Naruto felt it. A scan of chakra passing over the area. He froze. "Sensors," he whispered. The Kyuubi's eyes narrowed slightly. "They are getting closer to the door." Naruto clenched his fists. "We need to move. Now." And far away above the rooftops, Anbu shifted position. Deep inside Naruto, the seal creaked again, and something inside it was starting to wake up. Naruto ran. He didn't know where he was going, only that he couldn't stay there. His breath burned in his chest as rooftops blurred past him. The streets were quieter here, but his head was loud. Too loud. "Idiot," he muttered to himself. "What am I even doing?" The seal on his stomach throbbed again. Not painfully, insistently. "You are running from words." The Kyuubi's voice echoed inside his mind. "Shut up," Naruto snapped, leaping across a narrow alley. "You were about to say something important," she continued calmly. "Then you panicked." "I don't get to say things like that," Naruto growled. "Not with everything that's going on. The village, the seal, the Anbu, Tsunade-sama. You are afraid of choosing," she said. He landed hard, skidding across a tiled roof. "I'm afraid of ruining everything." Silence. Then quietly, "You already live inside something that can ruin everything." That stopped him for half a second. Half a second was enough. He felt it, a sweep of chakra pass over the district. "They're getting closer," the Kyuubi said. "Your friends. Your guards." Naruto's eyes widened. Crap. He took off again. Behind him, she watched from the shadows. Purple hair, sharp eyes, a familiar grin that never meant anything good for anyone else. Well, Anko Mitarashi murmured, crouched on a rooftop beam. "So that's where you ran off to, brat." Her gaze followed Naruto's blurred movement across the rooftops. "And you're definitely not alone." She could feel it. That chakra. Old. Twisted. Wrong. "Tsunade's gonna love this," she smirked. Then she vanished into the shadows after him. The chase tightens. Naruto skidded around a corner and nearly slammed straight into a barrier tag. He stopped just in time. "Ceiling net," he whispered. The street ahead was blocked. The rooftops behind him were lighting up with chakra signatures. "They're boxing you in," the Kyuubi observed. "I noticed." The seal burned again. Harder this time. Naruto staggered. Don't do anything," he hissed under his breath. "I am not," she replied. "They are." He felt it. Someone was pulling at the seal. Not her. Not him. From the outside. "They're trying to force it," he whispered in horror. "Yes," the Kyuubi said. "And if they keep doing that, something else will answer." Inside the seal, deep behind the chains, something shifted. Not her. Not Naruto. Something older. Heavier. Angrier. Back in the village. Naruto's vision swam. He landed hard in a narrow courtyard, barely staying on his feet. "You can't run forever, you know?" Naruto spun. Anko stood on the wall, arms crossed, grinning like a predator who'd finally found fresh tracks. "Anko-san, relax," she said. "If I wanted you restrained already, you'd be face down and wrapped in paper." Her eyes sharpened. "But I really want to know what's living in your shadow right now." The seal throbbed. The air grew heavy. She can see me, the Kyuubi said softly. Yeah, Naruto whispered. That's the problem. Anko's smile widened. This just got interesting. And then, every ceiling tag in the area lit up at once. The ground shook. Naruto cried out as the seal flared like fire across his stomach. They're forcing it open, he shouted. Anko's expression changed instantly. What the hell did the elders just start? Inside Naruto's mind, the water exploded upward. The chains screamed. And in the darkness beyond them, something else opened its eyes. The Kyuubi turned sharply. No! Naruto stood in the red sky, heart pounding. What is that? Her voice was no longer calm. That, she said quietly, is what happens when idiots try to break a door that was never meant to be touched. Naruto ran until his lungs burned. Not because he thought he could escape, but because stopping meant thinking. And thinking meant facing the weight crushing his chest. I'm messing everything up, he whispered, tears blurring his vision. Tsunade-sama. The village her. The seal throbbed again. Harder this time. He nearly stumbled. Why does everything I care about turn into a disaster? He choked. He didn't hear the pursuit behind him, but he felt it. Behind him, the Kyuubi stopped, not because she wanted to, because someone stood in her way. Anko Mitarashi. She landed lightly in the narrow street, eyes locked, body already coiled to move. So, Anko said, forcing a crooked grin, you're the source of the chaos. The air around the Kyuubi warped. Red chakra leaked from her like heat from fire. Move, the Kyuubi said quietly. Anko's instincts screamed. Every cell in her body told her this was not something meant to walk around in human shape. Yeah, Anko muttered, drawing a kunai anyway. That's not happening. The Kyuubi's eyes darkened. You are in my way. The pressure exploded outward. Tiles cracked. Windows rattled. Anko slid back half a step, teeth clenched. This isn't just a Bijuu's chakra, she realized. It's twisted. The Kyuubi's form began to shift. Not fully transforming. Not fully human. Something in between. The seal on Naruto's body screamed in response. Even from far away. Naruto. He dropped to one knee. What is she doing? Inside him, the mindscape shuddered. Chains rattled. The water boiled. Stop, he whispered. Please don't. Back to the street. Anko formed seals rapidly. Containment barrier. The jutsu barely finished forming before it was ripped apart by sheer pressure. Damn it! The Kyuubi took one step forward. I do not have time for you. Her chakra flared violently. Anko's eyes widened. If she attacks full force, this whole block is gone. She grit her teeth and threw a flash tag. Run, idiot! She shouted. Though she knew Naruto couldn't hear her, the explosion bought 1 second. Only one. The Kyuubi burst through it like it wasn't even there. Inside Naruto, the seal burned. Naruto screamed. He felt something pull at him from inside. Something else push from outside. They're going to break it. The Kyuubi's voice echoed inside him. If they do, something worse comes out. Naruto's eyes went wide. Worse than you. Silence. Then, yes. The village reacts. Far away, Tsunade slammed her fist into a desk. The chakra spike just doubled? A censorine shouted. We've lost track of Naruto. There's a second massive signature moving fast. The elders went pale. It's starting. Back to the chase. Anko reappeared ahead of the Kyuubi in a burst of movement, bleeding from her forehead but still standing. You're not getting past me that easily. The Kyuubi looked at her, and for the first time, she looked angry. Then you will be broken. The air itself screamed. Inside the seal, The chains began to crack. Not because the door was opening, but because something behind them was pushing back. Naruto stood in the red sky, shaking. What is that? The Kyuubi turned slowly. Her voice was no longer calm. That is the reason I was sealed in you. Naruto felt it like a knife in his gut. That chakra. Wild. Exploding. That's her. He whispered, already moving. She's going to kill someone. He forced his legs to move faster, ignoring the burning in his lungs and the way the seal felt like it was being torn in two directions at once. Please let me get there in time. The rooftops blurred. The village fell away. All he could feel was the collision of two monstrous chakra signatures ahead. The battlefield. The ground was already ruined. Cracked stone. Shattered walls. Anko skidded backward across the dirt, coughing blood, barely managing to stay on her feet. Damn it, she muttered. She's not slowing down. The Kyuubi stood across from her, chakra roaring around her like a living storm. Her eyes were no longer calm. They were feral. You should not have stood in my way, the Kyuubi said, her voice layered with something inhuman. Anko wiped blood from her mouth and forced herself upright. Yeah? And you shouldn't exist outside a seal. The pressure spiked. Trees bent. Stone cracked. One more step, Anko warned, hands shaking as she raised her kunai. And I'll bring this whole area down on both of us. The Kyuubi's chakra condensed. Not spreading. Focusing. Then you will die tired, she said simply. She moved. The world boomed. Inside Naruto, the seal screamed. Naruto stumbled in mid-run and nearly collapsed. No, stop, don't. Inside his mind, the water exploded upward. The chains howled. She's using too much. The Kyuubi's other voice echoed inside him, deeper, older. If she keeps this up, the door won't matter anymore. Naruto's eyes went wide. What does that mean? Silence. Then, it means everything comes out. Back to the fight. Anko barely dodged. The Kyuubi's strike erased the ground where she'd been standing. Anko slammed into a broken wall and barely rolled away before another shockwave ripped past her. This is insane. She tried to form seals. The air itself crushed her back down. Move, the Kyuubi said, walking forward through the storm of her own chakra. Anko couldn't. Her body wouldn't respond fast enough. So this is how it ends, she thought. Naruto arrives. Naruto, stop. His voice tore through the battlefield. Both of them froze. Naruto stood at the edge of the ruined courtyard, chest heaving, eyes wide with horror. What are you doing? He shouted at the Kyuubi. You're going to kill her. The Kyuubi turned. Her eyes snapped onto him. For half a second, the storm wavered. She is in the way, she said. That's not a reason, Naruto yelled. This isn't what I want. This isn't what I ran for. The seal burned. Naruto staggered but stayed on his feet. If you keep going, he said through clenched teeth, you're going to break me too. That made her hesitate. The chakra around her shuddered. Anko stared. He's stopping her? And then it happened. A massive wave of sealing chakra slammed into the area from 3 directions. Barrier tags ignited. The air locked in place. Tsunade's voice thundered across the battlefield. That's enough. She appeared in a flash of movement. NBU at her sides, hands already glowing. Naruto, get back, she shouted. The Kyuubi turned slowly. They have started again, she said quietly. The seal on Naruto's stomach blazed. The ground split. Inside Naruto, something roared. Not her. Something else. Naruto screamed and dropped to his knees. No, 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 no. The chains in the mindscape began to snap. The Kyuubi's eyes went wide. They're forcing it open, she whispered. Tsunade felt it. The ANBU felt it. The entire area felt it. Something huge was trying to come through. Claws and steel struck, and neither of them hit their intended target. There was a wet, terrible sound. Both Kyuubi and Anko froze. Naruto was standing between them. For a second, nobody understood what they were seeing. Then the blood came. It poured from Naruto's side and shoulder, soaking through his clothes, dripping to the shattered ground below. His legs gave out. He collapsed forward, still between them. "And no," Kyuubi whispered. Anko's eyes went wide. "Naruto?" Naruto coughed, and red stained his lips. Stop," he rasped. "Both of you." The world was spinning. Everything hurt, but he was still conscious. Barely. The Kyuubi dropped to her knees beside him. Her hands hovered over his wounds, shaking. I did this," she whispered. Her chakra surged wildly, but this time in panic, not rage. Inside Naruto, the seal screamed. The mindscape shook violently. Chains rattled like they were about to tear free. "No, no, no, no," Kyuubi said, her voice breaking. "This wasn't supposed to happen." Anko staggered back, kunai slipping from her fingers. "He jumped in front of us?" she whispered. He took both hits." Naruto's breathing became shallow. "Don't fight," he said weakly. "Please." Then his eyes rolled back, and he went limp. For half a second, everything went silent. Then, the Kyuubi screamed. The sound was not human. The ground cracked outward in a circle. Trees bent. Windows shattered. Her chakra exploded, but not outward. Inward. She forced it back. "No, you're not dying. You're not allowed to die." She pressed her hands down, trying to stabilize his body, but every time she touched him, the seal reacted violently. "Your body can't take this," she whispered. "Your seal is already tearing." Inside Naruto, something answered. Something old. Something furious. The chains in the mindscape began to snap. Umbu arrived. Shunshin flashes surrounded the battlefield. Tsunade appeared at the front. She took one look at Naruto's body, and her face went white. "Move," she said. The Kyuubi looked up. For a moment, Tsunade thought she was about to be attacked. Instead, the Kyuubi backed away. "If he dies," she said quietly. "Everything dies." Tsunade dropped to Naruto's side instantly, hands glowing. "He's losing too much blood. Internal damage. Seal instability. Chakra backlash. Damn it." She looked up, furious. "What did you do to him?" Anko couldn't speak. She just stared at Naruto. "He saved us," she whispered. "He jumped in front of us." Tsunade's jaw clenched. "Get a stretcher. Now." Anbu moved instantly. Inside Naruto, he was falling again. Into water. Into red sky. The chains were breaking. The Kyuubi stood in front of him, no longer calm. "You should not have done that," she said. Naruto tried to speak. No sound came out. "Now the door is breaking," she said. "And something else is waking up." Behind the chains, something moved. Back in the real world. Tsunade was already running with him. "Hold on," she snarled. "You do not get to die on me. Not now. Not ever." Naruto's seal blazed. The ground shook again. Sensornin shouted in fear. "The seal is collapsing." The elders felt it. The entire village felt it. And deep inside Naruto, something that was not the Kyuubi opened its eyes. The hospital gates did not open. They were blown open. Anbu cleared the path as Tsunade ran. Naruto's body on the stretcher, blood soaking through the sheets despite every seal and every jutsu she was pouring into him. "Don't you dare die," she snarled. Don't you dare. His pulse was weak. Too weak. His chakra network was chaos. And the seal was screaming. He's not just bleeding, a medic shouted. His chakra coils are tearing themselves apart. Because the seal is fighting itself. Tsunade snapped. Get me the containment room. Now. The village is already moving. High above, in the council chamber, the elders felt it like a hammer to the spine. The seal is destabilizing. No, it's failing. How much time? A censornine's voice trembled. Minutes. Maybe less. One of the elders closed his eyes. Then the contingency must be activated. In the containment wing, ceiling arrays lit up across the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Naruto was placed in the center. The moment they did, every seal in the room reacted. The air warped. The floor cracked. Naruto's body arched as if something inside him was trying to crawl out. Hold him down, Tsunade shouted. They tried. It barely worked. His body isn't the battlefield anymore, she whispered in horror. It's the door. Inside Naruto. He was drowning, but not in water. In weight. In pressure. In presence. The red sky was splitting open. The chains were breaking apart one by one, not snapping, peeling, like something was undoing them from the other side. The Kyuubi stood in front of him, no longer composed. This is wrong, she said. This is not how it was supposed to happen. Naruto tried to speak, tried to move. He couldn't. I told you, she said quietly. If they forced it, something else would answer. Behind the broken chains, the darkness moved. Not rushed, not wild, patient. What is that? Naruto tried to ask. No sound came out. The Kyuubi's voice was very quiet. That is the reason I was sealed inside you. The thing behind the chains. The darkness stood up. It did not roar. It did not rage. It did not need to. Its presence alone made the sky bend. The red world cracked. You are not the jailer, the Kyuubi said. The darkness did not answer her. It looked at Naruto. And for the first time, Naruto understood. This thing was not a beast. Not a monster. Not even a will. It was a function. A calamity given shape. Back in the real world. Naruto's seal exploded with light. Every ceiling array in the room activated at once. The building shook. Tsunade was thrown backward. Report, she shouted. A ceiling specialist screamed. We're not containing something. We're containing pressure. Naruto's body lifted off the table. Not floating. Being pulled from the inside. This isn't a release scenario, Tsunade realized in horror. It's a breach. The Kyuubi's voice echoed inside him. If it comes through, she said, there will be nothing left. Not the village. Not the country. Not even me. Naruto's eyes widened. Then stop it, he tried to say. She looked at him. For the first time. Not as a prisoner. Not as a weapon. But as a child standing in front of the end of something. I cannot, she said. But you might be able to. Outside the room, the elders felt the pressure spike. One of them stood abruptly. It has acknowledged him. The room went silent. Then the boy is not just a container anymore. He is the lock. Inside Naruto, the darkness leaned closer. The world screamed. And something inside Naruto, not the Kyuubi, not the seal, not the village, answered. Back in the hospital. Naruto's eyes snapped open. They were not blue. They were not red. They were something else entirely. The ceiling array shattered. Tsunade stared. Naruto? And the thing inside him, finally, pushed back. Naruto's hand was trembling. Not because he was cold. Not because he was afraid. Because his body was empty. He lay on the hospital bed, bandages wrapped around his torso, seals layered over seals. Tsunade's chakra still faintly lingering in his system like a last line of defense. The room was quiet, too quiet. The Kyuubi sat beside the bed, not touching him, afraid to. "I shouldn't have let you move," she said quietly. "Your body is still tearing itself apart from the inside." Naruto tried to smile, came out crooked. "If I don't move, it feels like I'm already dead." She looked at him, really looked. His skin was pale, his breathing shallow. His chakra flow was wrong, not broken, but rearranged. "You are not healing normally," she said. "Yeah," Naruto admitted. "Tsunade-sama said something about my body being a battlefield now." Silence. "I'm sorry," the Kyuubi said. Naruto turned his head slightly to look at her. "For what?" "For all of this." She gestured vaguely. "The seal, the pain, the thing behind the chains, the village turning into a war zone because I exist inside you." Naruto closed his eyes. "You didn't choose any of that." "Neither did you," she replied. He didn't answer. Sleep was creeping up on him again. Not normal sleep, the kind that pulls. "Every time I fall asleep," he murmured, "I can feel it again. That place. The chains. The other thing." The Kyuubi's expression darkened. "It is aware of you now." Naruto's eyes opened. "It always was," she said. "But now, it is paying attention." That was not comforting. His fingers twitched. "If it wakes up fully, then I will not be the greatest danger inside you anymore," she said quietly. Naruto let out a slow breath. "Great. That's great." He tried to laugh, turned into a cough. Blood stained the bandage slightly. "Don't push yourself," she said sharply. "I'm not," he replied. "My body just doesn't listen anymore." His eyelids grew heavy. "If I fall asleep," he said, "don't let them do anything to the seal. They already don't know how to touch it anymore," she replied. He gave a weak nod. "Then wake me up if something goes wrong." "Naruto," she said softly. "Something is always going wrong now." He fell asleep anyway, somewhere far away. Place with no sky, no horizon, no mercy. A throne of black stone sat in the middle of a dead plain, and on it sat something that only pretended to look human. Its form was tall. The shape was almost right, but the space around it bent in quiet discomfort, as if reality itself did not quite agree with what it was seeing. "So," the entity said, tapping its fingers against the armrest, "the container has changed." Before it, distorted reflections of chakra floated in the air. One was red. One was something else. "Interesting." It stood. The ground cracked under the motion. "I wondered when that old failure would start to break." Its eyes narrowed. "But this is not her doing." The reflections shifted. "No, this is the boy." A slow, unpleasant smile. A human vessel that can hold more than one disaster. Turned and began to walk. With every step, the world folded slightly to make room for it. "Then I suppose it is time I see him." Back in Konoha, Tsunade stood in front of a wall of seals, arms crossed, jaw tight. "We're not treating a patient anymore," she said quietly. Shizune looked at her. "What are we treating?" Tsunade didn't answer immediately. "A keystone," she finally said. Inside Naruto, he was back in the red sky. The chains were mostly gone now. Only fragments remained. The Kyuubi stood beside him. And across the endless water, the darkness was closer. It did not speak. It did not move fast. It did not need to. Naruto felt it looking at him. "It's coming," he whispered. The Kyuubi nodded. "Yes. Can we stop it?" She was silent for a long time. I do not know, she admitted. The water began to ripple. Not from it. From somewhere else. The sky cracked. Naruto's eyes widened. That's not you. No, the Kyuubi said. That is something coming from outside. In the real world, every barrier around Konoha flickered at once. Tsunade snapped to attention. We have a spatial disturbance. Something is trying to enter. Tsunade looked up sharply. Where? The sensor swallowed. Directly aligned with Naruto. Naruto hated lying in bed. It made him feel useless. Every time he tried to sit up, his body reminded him exactly how close he had come to not getting back up at all. I can walk, he muttered. No, the Kyuubi replied immediately. Her tone allowed no argument. You cannot, she said. Your chakra network is still misaligned. Your muscles are still torn, and the seal is still unstable. Naruto frowned. You're starting to sound like Tsunade-sama. She is correct, the Kyuubi said flatly. He looked at her. She was standing near the window, arms crossed, watching the barrier outside like she expected something to tear through it at any second. You haven't slept, Naruto noted. I do not need to, she replied. That was a lie, or at least a half-truth. Naruto could feel the tension in her chakra, like a drawn bowstring that had been held too long. You're scared, he said quietly. She didn't answer. It's okay, he added. I'm still here. That made her turn. For now, she said. The room went quiet again. Outside, the village was on edge. He could feel it even from here. Barriers humming, patrols moving, sensors watching the sky instead of the streets. They're not telling me everything, are they? Naruto asked. No, the Kyuubi said. Figures. He stared at the ceiling. About that thing. The one behind the chains. Her expression darkened. It is not sealed anymore, she said. Not completely. It is contained. By you. Naruto swallowed. So I'm the lid now. Yes. That's not reassuring. It is not meant to be. He closed his eyes. If it gets out, then there will be nothing left to protect. That was not a threat. That was a statement. The Hokage's office. Tsunade slammed another report onto her desk and rubbed her temples. 3 barrier fluctuations. 2 spatial distortions. 1 chakra anomaly that vanished before we could even classify it. She growled. Shizun stood across from her, holding another stack of documents. All centered on Naruto's location, she said quietly. Tsunade's jaw tightened. Of course they are. She stood and walked to the window, staring out over the village. I put him in a bed and the world starts to come apart. It's not his fault, Shizun said. I know, Tsunade snapped. Then she sighed. That's what scares me. She turned back to her desk. What about the council? Shizun hesitated. They're calling an emergency session. Of course they are. They're afraid, Shizun said. They think Naruto is no longer just a Jinchuriki. Tsunade's eyes hardened. He's not a thing. They think he's a keystone, Shizun replied. Silence. If he fails, Shizun continued carefully. Everything fails. Tsunade's fists clenched. Then I'll make damn sure he doesn't. Somewhere far away. Space folded. Not violently. Not loudly. Precisely. A presence stepped through a seam in reality that did not exist a moment before. The ground beneath it did not crack. It gave way. So, the entity murmured, looking toward the horizon. This is where the lock lives now. His gaze shifted. And it is still alive. A faint, unpleasant smile. Good. Back in Naruto's room, Naruto suddenly sat upright with a sharp gasp. It's here. The Kyuubi was instantly beside him. What is that feeling? Like something just leaned on the world. The air felt tight. The seal on his stomach burned, just a little. It crossed the boundary, the Kyuubi said quietly. Naruto looked at her. The thing from behind the chains? No, she replied. Something else. Outside, far away, every barrier around Konoha flickered at once. And every censorine in the village felt it. A street in Konoha. The disturbance arrived before anyone realized it wasn't a joke. First, it really did look like one. A strange man stood in the middle of a busy street, dressed in clothes that made no sense to anyone in Konoha, loudly demanding answers from the air itself. Where is she? He muttered, looking around, confused. This world is much louder than I remember. People stared. Then someone laughed. Then more people laughed. A crowd formed, not out of fear, but curiosity. Is this some kind of street performance? Mom, is he a ninja or just crazy? The man frowned, clearly annoyed. You are all very small, he said, squinting at them. Why is everyone so small? That only made it worse. The laughter grew. Something in his eyes twitched. You are laughing at me. He raised one hand. The air around it warped slightly. Not enough for civilians to notice, but enough for anyone sensitive to chakra to suddenly go cold. I am not here for you, he said, voice dropping. I am here for what was taken. Somewhere far away, in the Hokage Tower, a censorine suddenly stiffened. We just got a spatial anomaly. Small, but wrong. Tsunade looked up sharply. Where? Civilian district. The fool keeps walking. The strange man began to move, pushing through the crowd as if they were barely there. If she is here, she will feel me, he muttered. Or at least she should. He stopped, frowned. Strange. He closed his eyes. Nothing. Did they break her that badly? His expression darkened. No matter. If I cannot find her, I will find the container. The ground under his feet creaked. He started walking again, and behind him the laughter slowly died, because people were starting to feel something wrong. Naruto's room. Naruto lay back against the pillows, staring at the ceiling. I really hate this, he muttered. You are not moving, the Kyuubi said immediately. Her tone was sharp, unyielding. I was just going to sit up. No. Turn over. No. Blink aggressively? She stared at him. Do not test me. Naruto sighed. You're worse than Tsunade-sama. That is a compliment, she replied flatly. She stood near the window, arms crossed, ears and tail visible. Not because she wanted to be seen, but because she was too tense to waste chakra hiding them. She hadn't stopped watching the barrier since the morning. You've been like that all day, Naruto said. Did something happen? She didn't answer right away. Something crossed into this world, she said finally. Naruto's stomach tightened. The thing behind the chains? No, she said. Something smaller, but still dangerous. He swallowed. How dangerous? She looked at him. Dangerous enough to be looking for you. The seal on Naruto's stomach gave a faint, uncomfortable pulse. Great, he muttered. I'm a beacon now. You always were, she replied quietly. The village starts to react. In the Hokage Tower, Tsunade was already issuing orders. Lock down the civilian district quietly. No panic. Get ANBU in position. Do not engage unless it shows hostile intent. A censorine hesitated. Hokage-sama, its chakra signature is strange. Not like a bijou. Not like a summon. Not like anything we have on record. Tsunade's eyes narrowed. Of course it is. She turned toward the window. And it's moving. Toward where? The sensor swallowed. Toward Naruto. Back in Naruto's room. Naruto suddenly felt it. Pressure. Not crushing. Not burning. Just wrong. Something just leaned on the world, he whispered. The Kyuubi's eyes narrowed. Yes, that is it. Is it strong? It is persistent, she said. And that worries me more. Naruto clenched his fists. I can't even get out of bed. You will not, she said sharply. Then what am I supposed to do? She looked at him. For a moment, she didn't look like a monster. She looked like a guard standing in front of a door that must not open. You stay alive, she said. That is your job. Outside, far away, something took another step into Konoha, and the village barriers shivered. Naruto's breathing was shallow, too shallow. Every breath felt like dragging air through broken glass. Stop moving, the Kyuubi said sharply. Your stitches are not decorations. I'm not. Naruto tried to argue, then winced. Okay, maybe a little. She stood beside the bed like a guard who refused to blink. You are not dying, she said firmly. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not because of me. Naruto managed a weak smile. You're starting to sound like Tsunade-sama. That is because she is correct, the Kyuubi replied. She looked out the window again. The barrier outside the village flickered faintly. Something is still coming, she said. Naruto's stomach tightened. The thing from before? No, she said. Something else. Smaller. Louder. More annoying. That doesn't sound reassuring. It is not meant to be. The seal on Naruto's stomach pulsed. Not violently, like a warning. It's getting closer, isn't it? Naruto asked quietly. Yes. To me. Yes. Naruto stared at the ceiling. Figures. Somewhere in the village. The strange man stood in the middle of a side street, arms crossed, scowling. This world is poorly labeled, he muttered. Everything looks the same. A pair of civilians hurried past him, giving him a wide berth. Excuse me, he said loudly, grabbing one by the sleeve. Where is the demon I am looking for? The civilian yelped and ran. Rude, the man said. He sighed dramatically. Very well. I shall locate the source of the disruption myself. He closed his eyes, felt around with his senses. Nothing. Why can't I feel her? He frowned. Did she change? Then he felt it. Not her. Naruto. A presence that felt like a knot in the world. Ah, he said slowly. So that is where the problem is. He smiled. It was not a nice smile. The container. Space bent slightly as he stepped forward. Hokage Tower. Confirm the target's direction, Tsunade ordered. He's moving, a censorine said. Directly toward the hospital district. Tsunade's eyes hardened. Of course he is. She stood up. ANBU intercept. Do not engage unless necessary. And if necessary? Tsunade's voice dropped. Then delay him, at any cost. Back in Naruto's room, Naruto suddenly tensed. He's here. The Kyuubi turned sharply. You felt that? Yeah. It's itchy. Like something is poking the world. The seal warmed slightly. He is looking at you, the Kyuubi said quietly. Naruto swallowed. Great. Another fan. Her eyes narrowed. This one is not here to watch. Outside, far away, a pressure rolled through the barrier like a testing hand. Every censorine in Konoha stiffened. He's at the perimeter, somewhere near the hospital. The strange man stopped and looked up at the building. Found you. He cracked his neck. Let us see what kind of thing needs two disasters to protect it.
That's all for now. If you enjoy them, please like, share, and do comment.